If you spend any time on social media, you will eventually run into some sort of video or advertisement for these Stanley tumblers. So I had to get one to test it out to see if they're just as good as everyone is saying they are. That being said, I couldn't just test it by itself, so I got a friend and we picked up the YETI Rambler 30-ounce travel mug. Now these are both 30 ounces. We're going to put them in a head-to-head test. I know what you're going to say. This is not a complete scientific test because the cups aren't shaped exactly the same, but we'll get a general gist of which one will keep your drink colder or warmer. Welcome back to another Jeff Reviews for you. And as you saw in this video, we are going to be having a clash of the titans comparing two different very popular tumblers to see which one is better. You know what? Enough talk. Let's get right into this review. I will say the Stanley tumbler cost me $35 and the YETI Rambler cost me $42. I've taken out the Stanley straw because we're not going to leave that in for the test, and inside there of course were just some directions, which is interesting. But guess what? The YETI included a sticker. Is that worth the extra $7? We will see. The reason I selected these two brands is because they're both relatively popular. Let's get a quick measurement. As you can see from the bottom all the way up to the top, you're just over 8 1/4 of an inch for the YETI, and the Stanley, wow, 9 1/2 inches. Of course, if you look at the diameter of the Stanley, that's 3 3/8 of an inch, whereas the diameter of the YETI is 3 7/8 of an inch. Let's get an empty weight of the two tumblers. We can see that the Stanley comes in at 1 pound, 2.3 ounces. Now, let's check out the YETI. It's a little heavier, 1 pound, 8.2 ounces. If you take a look at the handles, you can see that the YETI handle, man, that is much smaller than that of the Stanley. Let me get a quick measurement there. All right, so it's about a 3-inch handle as compared to the Stanley having a 5-inch handle. So if you're needing to grab something, you want more things to grab, the YETI wouldn't be your choice. We added the exact same amount of ice into each of the tumbler. So now what we're going to do is we're going to fill them with water, put the tops on, take an initial temperature, and then check it in about 8 hours. Both cups have been filled up to the fill line. Now it's time to put on their lids. Let's get an initial temperature reading. You're seeing right here around 32 or 33 degrees Fahrenheit, which if you click it to Celsius, it's right around 0 or 1 in the Stanley. Let's switch this over to the YETI. We've given this a little bit of time to acclimate, and you can see that it's right there at 33.8 degrees Fahrenheit, which is right around 0 degrees Celsius. We've made sure to close both lids to give it a fair test. We will see these cups again in 8 hours. It's the 8-hour check-in time. I have not checked these yet, but I do want to see, do we have any ice in here yet? Oh, that sounds like there's ice in there. What about the Stanley? You know what? They both sound like they still have ice. I should say the room temperature here has been right around 70 degrees Fahrenheit, but let's see what the liquid temperature is. Of course, we're looking at the YETI first. We're just gonna let it go down for a few seconds till we get to our lowest temperature. And you know what? It's realistically the same temperature it was when we started, maybe even a little colder. You can see it says 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Of course, that would be none other than 0 degrees Celsius. There it is. Now let's check out our Stanley. All right, here goes nothing. Well, that's dropping just as quick. We're at 33 degrees Fahrenheit right now. 33, oh, how about they're the same temperature, right around that 32 degrees Fahrenheit after 8 hours. That's pretty cool. So far, they've both proved to be really good tumblers. So what we're going to do now is we're going to let this sit for another 16 hours. That means a full 24 hours with our ice in them. Now, of course, like I said before, the room temperature stays regulated right around 70 degrees Fahrenheit. You know what's really interesting? As we come now to the 24-hour period, it is really impressive that both of these cups still have ice in them. We are going to get an official temperature rating to see if we have a distinct winner. We're going to take a look at the Stanley first, and as you can see, that temperature is coming in right at about 32 degrees Fahrenheit, which is the same as it was we started over 24 hours ago. Let's see how the YETI did. We're looking at the YETI, and it's right there at about 33 degrees Fahrenheit, which is a very slight difference from that of the Stanley. I think they both did a great job maintaining their temperature for 24 hours. Do you know what I'm gonna do now? I actually wanna open up these cups to see how melted that ice is. If we look at the ice, we can see that the Yeti's ice is almost melted, just a little collection right here on the top, whereas this Stanley, it goes down over halfway in there. That's pretty impressive. Now that's probably because the Stanley is a narrower mug, and of course the Yeti is a fatter mug, but if you want your ice to stay frozen longer, it looks as though the Stanley wins. We took this out to the 36-hour point just for fun, and as you can see, all of the ice in our Yeti has completely melted, and there is just a little bit of ice left here in our Stanley. So, tell me, what are your thoughts of the Stanley versus the Yeti? Did you have a favorite? Let me know down in the comment section below. I would love to hear from you. We know how the cold water test went. Now it's time for the hot water test, and I just boiled this water and we are right around 181 degrees Fahrenheit. Might hit 182. No, 181 is good. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna quickly add this water to both cups and seal up them with their lids and run our test. We did that very fast, and what I do like about this is I cannot feel the temperature of the inside liquid on the outside of either of these tumblers, so they do keep a great barrier of temperature between what's inside and what's outside. I wanted to check to see if the temperature was the same between when it was in the pot and the tumbler, and you can see right now we have just filled this up. It's 170.4 degrees Fahrenheit in the Stanley. The Yeti I saw right around 169.4. For some reason I can't get a good video of the thermometer on this side. Highest I saw it was 169.4. Right there it's 169.2, so we'll write that down. We are gonna check back in more frequently with the hot water just because I think people might wanna be drinking coffee and such, and normally you're not gonna last about 8 hours with your coffee. Like I said, we're right around 169, 170, so we'll see what we are in 1 hour. It's been 1 hour. We wanna know what kind of temperature we have inside these cups. I will say both of the lids actually are pretty warm. I did a temperature check and they're ranging right around 130 degrees Fahrenheit, so you do have some temperature loss through the lid, but let's see what it's like inside. Remember here on the Stanley, it was 170 degrees prior, or an hour ago. Let's see what it is right now. In an hour, it looks like we lost right around 10 degrees Fahrenheit. Let's check out the Yeti. The Yeti was right around 169, and so right here we're looking about 157. Maybe it's gonna hit 158, so realistically, the Yeti actually got a little cooler over the hour as compared to the Stanley. Of course, both of these temperatures are on the high end for people who are drinking coffee. Most people like their coffee around 140, but after an hour, it's still pretty warm. It's time to do a 2-hour check. We'll check the Yeti first. Drop in that thermometer. Remember at the 1 hour, we were right around 158 degrees. Give this a few seconds, it's still climbing. We seem to have leveled out right around 146, 147 degrees Fahrenheit. It's pretty good, but you know what? It's another 11-degree drop after 2 hours. Let's check out our Stanley. So remember our Stanley was 160 degrees Fahrenheit after 1 hour. Right now we're looking to be right around 149. It might hit 150, so a 10 or 11 degree drop here as well. We're being pretty consistent every hour. In my opinion, this is still warm enough for most people in coffee, so let's continue the test. We'll check again in another hour. There was only about a 3-degree change at the 3-hour mark, so I didn't end up filming it. What I'm gonna do here though, this is the 4-hour mark, and I do wanna see what's happening because to be honest with you, by this time my coffee is gone. I don't know about you. Let's check the Stanley first. Wow, that's impressive. We're still at 140 degrees Fahrenheit at the 4-hour mark. I'm excited to see what the Yeti is doing. Well, it looks like the Stanley is running away with this because right now the Yeti is at 135 degrees Fahrenheit at the 4-hour mark. There is a definite difference between these two mugs. I think I'm done with the hour-by-hour check. I'm gonna go for the full 24 hours later to see what temperature these are. So I'll see you in about 20 hours from now. Who's ready for the 24-hour check-in? Now I should say I'm not expecting a whole lot from these cups because, man, 24 hours with hot water, it's not gonna stay hot. So let's see what temperature it still is. Now, currently the temperature in this room is 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Let's check out our Yeti. So what we've seen here on the screen, you know what though? 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Although it's not as hot as it once was, I'm still impressed that it kept it even that warm over a 24-hour period. Now let's check out that Stanley. Just like in the other tests, the Stanley did do better when it came to maintaining the temperature either warmer or colder. In the end, they both perform pretty similar, so it comes up to personal taste, what you would like. So tell me below, which one do you think won this test? If we look at the lids themselves, you can see that, of course, there are directions. If we want to open this up, you push down and slide it forward. And of course, we can slide it back to lock it into place. The gasket right here goes all the way around the bottom. It is a thick piece of rubber, and yes, it is removable for cleaning. Speaking of cleaning, with any of these tumblers, you want to make sure that you clean underneath the spout. Remember how I told you this one just slides open like that? You push down, slide. Well, if you push it again, it pops up right here at the end, and this is just held on by a magnet. Now I can take that off, turn this piece, take it out, clean it. When I want to put it back in, I just reverse the process. And just like that, it snaps back in. As for the Stanley, the gasket is actually up here, and yes, it is also removable, so that's pretty convenient. This is actually a pretty cool lid. You can actually drink out of the mug right here up on the top, or if you wanted to keep your straw, you can spin this all the way around so it aligns with the hole. I will say that these kind of lids are notorious for getting mold underneath there. So what you want to do is when you clean this, you want to make sure to pinch these two together, push the top out, and now you can clean underneath and on your cap. And then really just pushing it back in. It takes a little bit of an effort there, but you can just snap it back into place. They're both pretty tall mugs, and I'm interested to know how their center of gravity would be. Like if you were to push towards the top, what would you see? To be honest with you, pushing the Stanley, now these are both full of liquid, but pushing the Stanley, it seems like it had a little more resistance, like it was gonna stand up a little better, whereas the YETI seems like it could be a little top heavy. Now that could be because of the size up here versus that of the Stanley. We filled them both up with water, and we noted earlier that there was a gasket that was keeping the liquid inside, at least supposed to, but there is a weak point on both. That of course would be the part where you drink out of. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tip it over to see what kind of a mess we make. Now this is shut and full of water. Down there you can see that just a little bit of dribbling is coming out. Not so bad, but yep, something did come out. All right, just to show you the Stanley, I'm gonna have the cup opening down here at the end, not where the straw would be, just to be fair. Ooh, you know what? That had a little bit of a drop come out. Oh yeah, it definitely is leaking out. Doesn't come out at a high rate of speed, but it does come out nonetheless. Since I tipped over the Stanley, I'm gonna tip over the YETI too to see if we have any liquid come out. Oh, it seems to be holding. Oh, never mind. Shook it a little bit and there comes the water. But you know what? It's not coming out as much as I thought it would. In this video, we are taking a look at two very popular tumblers. So what do we think of it? First things first, let's talk about that price point. I should say these are both the 30-ounce versions. The Stanley retailed for right around $35, whereas the YETI was $42. As we look through the test, we could see that the Stanley clearly performed better, although the YETI was not too far behind. I hope that this provided some additional information for you as you are looking to purchase your very own tumbler. If either of these are something that interests you, I will leave a link down in the description. This is Jeff with Jeff Reviews for you. As always, thanks for stopping by, and I hope you have a great day. My favorite part of these two tumblers is they actually fit into standard size cup holders, and nothing frustrates me more than when your mug or your cup just doesn't fit in that cup holder, but these two do. I really do appreciate that you stayed around for my entire review where I compared the Stanley versus the YETI. You know what? I've actually compared water bottles in the past, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna link that review right up here, and I would love it if you would click on this link. And when you do, by the magic of the internet, I'm gonna join you right here. So go ahead, click it. It's safe, I promise.